Jr., and I am introducing you to the first podcast show. And I'd like to share with you an idea for whose time has finally come. So before we get started, we want to jump right into this opportunity. All right, I'm going to share my screen with you. All right, here we go. So I want to talk to you about a pilot project coming this fall called the Micro School, Micro Church Movement. How to create small, impactful churches and schools for community transformation. Now, this project has been a brainchild of mine since 2008. When we planted our church, the Rock Church, I was also the principal of a charter school that we started. I've been in education since 1997 in LAUSD in the city of Watts. And then in 2001, moved over to the charter school movement, where I spent the rest of my educational tenure as an elementary school teacher, a founding charter school principal, and then creating in 2010 the blended learning program for a charter school district. And so my experience is vast, and this vision that I've had for this church school model for urban leaders has been something on my heart that's been burning for years. And so I want to share with you my baby, my brainchild, the micro school, micro church movement. So I'm going to talk to you about the mission, the problem, the opportunity, the model, the impact, and the partners that have come along side of this project that's launching this fall. So we always start with the why. Why am I doing this? What wakes me up in the morning every day? I always have had a heart to see young people thrive, investing into the next generation. My wife and I, Dr. Dee Dee Watts, have always wanted to see the thriving of young people, young adults, youth enter into life, pursuing their dreams and their purpose and their call in life, and wherever it takes them. And so why am I doing this? Why am I passionate about micro schools and micro churches? Well, it's because we want to develop micro schools and churches that serve low income, first generation college and or underserved student and families who has great potential but lacks the necessary support to excel. My tenure in education for over 20 years, I've seen countless number of young people whose dreams were snuffed because of whatever social factors that were barriers that kept them from being all that God has called them to be. And so my heart's passion, my life's passion is to develop schools and to equip leaders to plant churches that serve in low income areas, that serve first generation college students, and that serve underserved families who have everything it takes to be successful. But there may be some things that are surrounding them, the wraparound support that they need in order to excel. So here's the problem. We all know about the school to prison pipeline. We know that education has been a one size fit all model. We know that students don't belong in a factory. And yet every day We saw millions of students in our neighborhoods go to school not customized to meet their unique needs. And the interesting thing about the pandemic was that the pandemic forced schools, as well as churches, to begin thinking differently about the way they educate students and their parishioners. For churches, the church is dying. We're losing the next generation. And if the church is going to reach this now generation, who Barna says in the next few years by 2050, there'll be more unaffiliated and religious nuns. If we're going to reach that generation, we must have an approach that's innovative, that uses innovative tools and methods for ministry. And so after years of planning, after years of building, after years of praying, after years of thinking and talking, we think we've come up with a solution that responds to student needs as diverse as Urban Centers itself. What is it? It's the small size church, small size school. Small is the new big. This pandemic has allowed us to think in this way. It has allowed us to see that you don't have to be large in order to be effective. So planting small size churches allows us to start small size schools. In our church, the Rock Church, in partnership with a major partner called Stony Brook Global, which is a Christian boarding school in New York, in Stony Brook, approached us and said they wanted to start micro schools in urban centers. And it was like a godsend. And these private, independent Christian schools would be 100% tuition free. So what does that look like? We would enroll students in grades 9 through 12. It would be the historical one-room schoolhouse in local churches. And these schools are birthed out of church plants and community development efforts of local church members who want to see more for their own children and for the children and families of others in their city. So we're not talking about planting large churches in order to do this. We're talking about planting micro churches for micro schools. So here's my theory of change. We're talking about discipleship for a new era. Imagine, if you will, a Sunday through Saturday experience all in one place. Sunday morning digital worship. You're experiencing it now. The pandemic forced churches to pivot and to use more technology and live stream and video and digital discipleship. And so imagine congregations worshiping in a traditional church setting or also online live streaming participation. And so we use the word digital in both a physical and digital space on Sunday morning for worship. Then Monday through Friday is where real life on life happens. That's where discipleship takes place. And that's where the micro school comes in. Micro schools where educating future leaders take place during the regular school day. But watch this, at night, it's the training of urban leaders through theological education for the purpose of leading and growing leaders in your church. And then on Saturdays, it's the outreach activities, the food distribution, the evangelism programs, the leadership development workshops on like financial literacy, discipleship, and home buying, just to name a few. So who are the partners to make this happen? Well, we've gotten some movement on this project, and we've gotten some partners who have committed to supporting the launch of this new model of church. One being Stony Brook, which is our educational partner that's going to be providing the educational platform, the teachers, the curriculum at no cost to families. Then we have a denomination who wants to be in on this to give us startup funding for multiplying churches and multiplying leaders. We also have the incredible leadership at the Global Orphan Project, which is an organization that focuses on foster youth and families who also connected us with Angel Armies, which is Chris Tomlin's nonprofit, who is committed to supporting the launch of this. Then we have Truist Foster, who's in the midst of committing to help us launch this, which is Toby Max Foundation. We have the Urban Ministry Institute, which is committed to helping us to train and equip urban leaders to plant churches in under-resourced neighborhoods and communities. We have Young Life to help with our after-school efforts and in-school efforts to help develop young people and adolescents to grow in their relationship with Christ. We have a Stadia, who's a partner with us that will help us in training planters who will be in that digital space, both online and physical. And so imagine, if you will, a place where young people in the church can do life on life every day of the week, and it doesn't have to be a thing that's separate and apart from one another. And that urban leader doesn't have to have 5 and 6 jobs in order to take care of his or her family. And the church can work together like in Nehemiah. Look at what we did with the work of our hands. Imagine all throughout the city, these centers of hope, these outposts of the kingdom in every neighborhood where young people's lives are being impacted for the gospel's sake, and being educated and going to the top 100 colleges and universities in the nation to then come back to their communities to help pour in and transform it. This is a little bit about me. Like I said, I was born and raised in South Los Angeles, went to Cal State Dominguez Hills, got my master's in education and administration from the University of Phoenix. Then I went back and got my master's from Fuller Seminary in theology and began my educational career in 1997. And more than 20 years later, I started a charter school. I taught elementary school, and then I became the blended learning and project-based learning director for a local charter school district that had 4,000 kids in 12 K through 12 schools. That was about, at that time, 95% African American, and that were outperforming kids in Beverly Hills. And we're taking that same concept, those same principles, and we're incorporating it into this moment, this project. Here's what we have committed thus far for startup costs. And you can see that partners are continually jumping on board to be a part of what God is doing in the city of LA. How about you? Would you like to be a part of this movement of micro schools and micro churches for urban leaders in under-resourced communities and neighborhoods all across this city? I want to thank you for being a part of this. And thank you for allowing me time to share with you this dream, this hope, this passion of mine that has been in my heart for almost more than 10 to 13 years. Micro school, micro church movement. There may be some bigger, but there will not be any better. Thank you for your time. My name is Pastor Peter Watts, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace.